Hey guys, what's up? It's Duchess Braids here, and I'm back with another tutorial. So today I have my best friend Amanda, and we're going to be doing 6 straight back braids on her hair. And for this video, I wanted to go into a little bit more detail on how I'm able to get my braids to look proportional because Amanda has really, really thick hair. I know it might not look like it sometimes, but on a scale of 1 to 10, she's probably like a 9.5 of thickness. So because she has super thick hair, I wanted to like break this video down. And typically I don't break videos down with braids because I have my course and I sell my course. So if you guys want more information on how I do my braids, that is in my course and it will be linked in the description. However, today I want to be nice, give away, some advice to you guys so that you guys know what to do if you're faced with a situation like this where the client has really thick hair. So the first thing you want to do is always start with the middle part. As you've noticed from almost every one of my videos, you should have noticed that I always start with the middle part. I know you guys probably are over that and seeing that at the beginning of every video, but that is literally the standard for me. I'm going to start with a middle part no matter what style I'm doing. So now, since the middle of your hair is the most dense part of your head, I always want to start my straight backs in the middle. This is going to determine how thick my braids are going to be, and it's going to set the standard for the rest of the braids to come, if you guys understand what I'm saying. Because the middle is so dense, it's the most dense part, and not only that, it's the longest journey from front to back, going from the forehead to the nape. It's going to lead the longest journey based off how your head is shaped. So you do want to start with the middle, and this is more, even if you're doing more than 6 braids, you do want to start in the middle, and that's going to determine how thick the rest of your braids need to be, just so that it looks proportional. You don't want to start on the sides, and because the sides are less dense, and then work your way up, and then you have this super thick braid in the middle. So yeah, so this is what I want you guys to watch. I want you guys to sit back and watch how much hair I'm adding to this. And now this is the first time I'm adding hair in this. I braided back some and I had added 1 strand, and now I'm going to add another strand. So for me, I never add more hair than 1 leg. So when you're braiding, you have 3 legs, and I never add more hair in at one time that is thicker than one of my legs. So it's either going to be equal to or less, but never thicker than it. So when you're braiding, you have 3 strands. I call them legs. And when I'm adding hair, I don't want the amount of hair that I'm adding to be thicker than one of those legs. It's always going to be either equal to or less than. So as you can see, I haven't added any more hair to this braid. And the reason I even added in the beginning was for strength. When you do have some extensions in the braid, it makes the braid a little bit stronger and it makes it last longer. So those were the only 2 extensions that I added to this braid. And once I hit the bend, now typically when you get to the back of the hair, your braid, even if it's really thick hair, your braid starts to get thinner or get smaller because you're at the end of most of the thickness. So I go in on the back. I add almost at every turn because I don't want my braid to get super thin. You don't want it to go from a drastically large braid to a super thin braid. So I add hair at the back, not only for length, but also because I need it to continue with the same amount of thickness and a gradual amount of thickness from beginning to end, to so that it looks natural, so that it looks aesthetically pleasing. And this is going to set the standard for how thick the back of my braids are. So now when I move on to the next braid, I'm not trying to achieve this exact same amount of thickness as the first braid that I did, but I do want it to be close. The reason I'm not trying to get the exact same amount of thickness is because it just doesn't look right when they're all the same. Like you kind of do want it to get a little bit smaller, but not drastically smaller. You want it to like get smaller as you go towards the ear, but you don't want like a drastic change. Like, oh, you have this skinny braid, and but the middle one is so thick. Like, you kind of want it to be, gradually, but not. And but the back, so the front you want to be gradually smaller, but the back, I do tend to try to make the back the same size because I want them all to fall, and I want the when I plait the end of the braids out, I want it to all look the same size, the same length, the same graduation from thick to not so thick, so another tip too, as you guys can see, I always coat the inside of the braid, not only because her hair is thick, but because it just helps when the inside. So I'll part the uh the braid out for the braid, and then I'll part through the center of it, and I'll coat it with whatever gel I'm using, and then I'll put it back together like a sandwich, and then I'll start braiding. So I do this because when you start doing your stitch, and it's really hard to stitch really thick hair. It's hard to show. Sometimes it's not hard to do. You can do it. However, it tends to not show as well as someone that doesn't have so much thickness and, so much density in their hair. So if you're having this issue, it's completely normal. A lot of braiders have to deal with it, even if you're an advanced braider and you're not so advanced braider. If the person has thick hair, your stitches probably are not going to show that well unless you're a super stitcher. So for me, I always coat the middle of the braid, and that's going to help to lay the inside hairs down. Because if it's dry on the inside, more likely it's going to be all curled up when you're trying to stitch and show the stitches. And it just doesn't help. And it just helps to make the braid also more neater and just, more put together. So that's what the goal that we're going for. For this, if you guys, you might have to watch this video more than once just so you can see how much hair I'm adding to the second one. I really wanted to like go through this video and talk about how much hair I'm adding, but there's also so much information I want to give you guys that sometimes I might miss out on really just telling you, you know, of giving you a visual of what I'm doing in the moment and explaining what I'm doing in the moment rather than just throwing out facts while the video is playing, which is what I'm doing. So for this one, this is the last braid on this side, and it's the closest to the ear. And for this one, I'm going to add so much more hair into this braid because it's the least dense part of her head. When you're it doesn't matter what style you're doing or what client you have or whatever, this part next to the ear is going to be the finest part. It's going to be the least dense. And so I'm going to be adding much more hair than I added in the other two braids. So for this one, I might stop here. For some reason, I noticed about myself, and this might not be all the time, but what I notice is when I'm going around the bend, I tend not to add much hair until I reach like around it. And then I start adding like for this, I'm going to add OD. Like I'm going to overdo it with adding because I want to catch up because this braid is the least dense. I'm trying to catch up to the thickness of the other braids. So I'm adding the equal amount of one leg to this braid, and I'm just continuously adding until I feel like it's the same size as the other ones. And sorry I didn't catch really, really great angles for this video. However, you guys will be able to see at the end. So this is another on the other side. I've already done the other two braids going down, and this is now the last one. So you always want to start in the middle, go towards the ear, then start in the middle again and go towards the ear. So that's what I did here. And now I'm on the last and final braid. And again, like I said, I'm adding hair in this one a lot more than I did to the other two, because on the side next to the ear is the least dense. And as I go, I'm just adding, and you do not want to add more than like, especially in the beginning, you just want to add a little bit of hair equal to or less than one leg. That's just by like, that's just what you guys need to get in your head, because you don't want it to, when you add more hair than the leg, it's gonna show, and you're gonna see the drastic change in the braid. So I just, for it to look good, just keep that rule of thumb, and make sure you guys, keep that as something that you guys do when you're braiding. So now that I've reached the bend and I've got it around the ear, I'm gonna start adding now, and you're gonna see again how much hair I'm adding in. And again, it's equal to or less than. For me at the back, it's probably gonna be equal to, because I'm trying to catch up to the thickness of the other three braids. And I'm mostly worried about the thickness when I get to the back. See, the front has a great size, and they all three have a great size, but the one at the top is going to always kind of be a little bit thicker, because, like I said, it just looks good when it all three at the beginning does not look the same size. So I'm braiding it down now, and this is the final look, you guys. You let me know what you guys think. To me, it looks very proportional. The parts are nice. The braids are nice. It looks good. The stitches could be better, but like I said, when you have really thick hair, it's really hard to show. The stitches just don't want to show because there's so much hair, and but she loves it. I love it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys were able to learn something from this video, because that was my goal, to give you guys a little freebie on my braids, but details in description.